welcome everybody to another edition of the Cryptid Consortium. It's going to be season 1, episode 6. I'm here with my partners, Mr. Nick Valenti. Nick, how's it going, brother?
Jay, doing great. And there's
Awesome.
Gary down below. How about you, Gary? How you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Junior. So, Nick, what do we got on tap for tonight?
Okay, now, according to my buddy in Indonesia, and I spoke to him earlier today, via this wonderful internet hookup from here to Indonesia, we are going to be, and this is the correct pronunciation, the Orang Gadang. You got to pronounce it that way. Otherwise, It sounds like orangutan, but it's not. The Orang Gadang is it's Indonesia's answer to our Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
Yes.
That's what he is.
Yep.
And not to be confused with the Orang Pendak.
Pendak.
Yep. You don't want to confuse it with that, because the Pendak is smaller.
Yes.
That's the big difference. This guy, the
feet.
Orang Gadang, goes 7.5 feet to 12 feet generally.
Yeah, I've even heard of larger, 14 in some cases.
Yeah, they can go that large, like ours. But the Pendak, he's just a little guy. He goes like maximum 6 feet, generally 5'5".
Yeah. 5.5 feet.
5'5".
I actually pulled up like pictures and stuff of both so we could do a comparison, because I knew you was going to bring that up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But just to let the people know, the Orang Gadang is from Indonesia, and basically he's located in Sumatra and Malaya.
Yep.
And those are the two places they see him. Now, good old Indonesia, home of everything that wants to kill you. They've got these giant coconut spiders that are about 2 feet across, and they drop down from trees on top of you, pop you in the head, and then bite you. I mean, that's why they're called coconut spiders. I think they kind of time it for when you're underneath, and boom, it's just really something.
It's funny.
I wanted to tell everybody that the Orang Gadang, the name means giant man.
Giant man. Yep.
Giant man. Now, the man part is the orang. That is the man part, because in Indonesia they have a ton of cryptids.
Yes.
And a lot of them are named orang, like the Orang Pendak, for instance, and they've got orang everything out the
Orang Mawas, everything. Yeah.
They're just tons of them out there.
Orang.
But good, but like I was saying, good old Indonesia. On 4 islands in Indonesia, they had the former cryptid, the Komodo dragons.
Yes.
And I mean, talk about something that's nasty and dangerous. It comes after you. If it can't, it's fast, and it's
very
big,
fast,
and it looks like a dragon. If it can't kill you, it'll spit at you and poison you. And
that's what I was going to say. Even if it bites you and it doesn't chase you, it'll follow you. And
it'll follow you forever.
Yeah.
Part of their hunting technique, they bite these water buffalo, wait for them to expire, or at least weak enough where they can hop on it and start eating it alive.
Yeah, but Komodo dragons are not prejudiced. They go after humans.
Everything.
I was watching a YouTube show, and this one native of Indonesia, he was out there on the beach telling people about the Komodo dragons, and this one snuck up on him from the side. I'm like, don't you have any kind of side vision? You're seeing this thing's coming at you. Your cameraman's not saying anything. What's going on?
Right.
And this thing jumped on him and bit him. I mean, this thing was gigantic. It must have been about 12 feet long. I couldn't believe this thing.
Well, they say they can run like 38 miles an hour. They're
38 miles an hour.
You're correct. They are fast.
Like the Tengu. The Tengu is just a smaller version of the things. You was talking about those the coconut spiders. Friend spent some time in Indonesia and the Philippines with the military, and they're a delicacy over there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They cut them up and eat them, and fry them up and stuff. And
especially if they miss you, they don't time it hitting you. Aha! I got you now, right?
You tried to eat me, and now I'm going to eat you.
That's it.
Exactly.
Pop you in the head and break you open.
Well, one thing you mentioned, Nick, that I wanted to get right off the bat, some of the folks from Indonesia and that might be watching this, there has been a lot of mistaken identities alleged mistaken identities from the how can you say it? Orang
Pendak.
Gadang.
Orang Gadang and the Hantu Tingi, which they call the tall ghost.
Yes.
Because I guess in the woods they're seeing the shadow people, and one is more of a spiritual nature and one is
right.
The physical. And it's weird that Nick brought that up.
Yeah.
In Nepal with the Yeti, they're one and the same. They're not the same name, but they say that it walks a spiritual path and the physical side. Where within Indonesia and like even all the way into the Philippines, it's like they've separated them out. I think it's cool in a cultural sense that.
Well, it's like the natives here of Sasquatch. They say I know the Mohawks say they have 1 foot in the spirit world, 1 foot in the physical world.
Yeah.
Well, like we were talking about a few shows ago, Dogman, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, if you want to call it, they've been known to disappear, right in front of people, and maybe they're from another dimension, or maybe they are using a portal of some sort. So they, guys, this really smells of paranormal meets the real world.
Meets physical.
If they're going between dimensions and everything, it's kind of spiritual. If not, maybe it is, or maybe it's not.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because my biggest, folks, is, as y'all know, with me coming in this, I have been trying to play the devil's advocate, the more physical side of it. But that would explain my first debunking and first argument of the Orang Gadang is how could something that big survive on an island that small? I understand that humans do, but we import food and stuff in and everything, in which are
right.
But this thing, and another thing too, is it's only seen on those 2 islands, those 2 islands.
Right.
It's not elsewhere. So we can't say that it's swimming off and coming back. So, my first thought was like, how could something like this survive for this time? But if it is like Nick is saying, if it does kind of walk both worlds, you see what I'm getting?
It's possible for that. But I asked that exact question, Gary, of my buddy over there who lives in Indonesia. And he's an author, and what he is telling me is that they have a lot of caves over there.
Yeah.
Now, during the war with Japan, World War II, the Japanese were in the Philippines. They were in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
They were hiding weapons and ammunition, caches, right? And they were also hiding gold, all over the place. And in Indonesia, there's a lot of little islands over there.
Yes.
So that might be the answer to the question. Maybe they've been hiding in the cave systems.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of cave systems out there, guys.
Indonesia, there's a chain of 17,000 small islands, something like that. Yeah.
A lot of small islands.
A lot. I mean,
but once again, we're only having the sightings in the certain areas. It's
Sumatra, Java,
Malaya, and Sumatra.
Yeah. But another thing, 2 things you brought up, it's so funny how our conversations do this. If it is more plantain, it could survive a lot easier because, all the jungle coconuts and everything. But look at all the primates that live over there, and that's something we'll get to also. And Nick, it's funny you brought up World War II in Japan. 2 of the sightings, the most creditable sightings that I was reading about was from Japanese POWs. They had seen these, and one of them said that one attacked their encampment.
Okay.
But that also, we probably need to do the Orang Gadang tonight. We are going to do a comparison with the Orang Pendak, but when we do the Orang Pendak, that'll be a whole different deal because they're more spread out. They're even into the Nepalese mountains along with the Yeti and the Vietnam and stuff. But
well, the thing too is about the Orang Gadang that from what I researched, they said that their hair is short.
Yes.
All right. So it's probably because of the super hot climate that they are always seen in.
Absolutely.
Versus the Bigfoot and the Sasquatch up in Canada, stuff like that. Just to give a short rundown for the audience, the Orang Gadang, it's very large, 7.5 feet to 12 feet. They're shy, generally shy. They're nocturnal, generally. They're omnivorous, and they emit a whistle sound and a loud screaming sound. Now, the screaming sound is almost like a woman in distress. Therefore, if you ever find yourself out there, whether it be the United States or Indonesia, and you hear a woman in distress screaming, maybe don't go rushing out there so quick.
Correct.
Because
Absolutely.
on very few occasions, like Gary pointed out, and I think, Jay, you mentioned this too, they have been noted to be aggressive. I guess that would be the best term to use.
Yeah.
Now, if you have something like this coming at you, I'd want that shotgun that Gary has, with Sabo rounds. I mean, something like that, my God. Yeah, I'd put all 30 rounds in that sucker.
Yeah.
That's,
for sure.
if it's becoming aggressive.
Now, what's interesting about this creature is the we'll pull these up too whenever Gary's ready. But the casts, the tracks, courtesy of our good friend Mr. Dolly Sandra DePutra, gave me permission to use these. But they're very interesting because the heel, it narrows at the heel, but how'd you put it, Gary? With the ball of the foot is flared.
Yeah, it's almost here. I'm pulling them up now. Sorry, it's taking me a little bit. I had too many. Share screen.
And they're massive.
Yes, they are. It's interesting with the heel is narrow, and then how it widens out here. And some of it could be from blowout, but as you can see, that now this looks more like a handprint.
Anybody's foot that we know of?
That's my buddy Dolly's.
Yeah.
So he's probably got a little foot.
Yeah, he's 5 foot. Yeah. 5'2", 5'3". He's a little.
Yeah, he's a small guy.
Still,
maybe
he's got a size 6 or 7 foot.
Yeah.
And that thing's at least maybe twice the size of his foot.
Yeah, I would say so.
Genuinely, in the animal world, the spread of the toes and the spread of the mass like that is. Look at an elephant's foot, look at the Sasquatch, look at grizzly bears, Kodiaks. They spread they're more spread in a softer aggregate area, so they can spread the weight out. So I would say that depending on the depth of that cast, I don't know what kind of substrate that it was taken in, but that rascal weighs at least 800 pounds.
Absolutely.
In my professional opinion.
Yeah, same here.
Well, it's like close to 200 pounds for every quarter of an inch down.
Yeah, depending
on the soil.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if
Depending
that's hard soil, and that's about 4 inches down.
I mean,
that big one looks like a very deep one.
Now
it looks like it's almost coming up to the ball of his ankle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Keep in mind also, folks, that the area that this is taken in is a rainforest environment. So you're not going to get, unless you get a perfect sandbar or something, you're not going to get a perfect cast. It's going to have some deformities and stuff like that. Yeah. But the thing that has always blew me about with Dolly when we entered, it's been 2-3 years since we've interviewed.
2 years, since we interviewed him last.
Every one of his tracks are all consistent. There's less variation in the Orang Padang or Gadang than there is in the American Sasquatch. There's different sizes, but the actual, as you see here, like even here, all the tracks are consistent shaped.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the big things that got me when we was discussing that night about, and if I remember right, Jeremiah, he had one trackway that him and his trackers, these fellas are exceptional trackers.
Unbelievable.
Followed this thing for 2 miles through the rainforest.
Yep.
Something I want to point out, because that's here, put that back up, Gary. Just real quick.
Yeah.
What I want to point out is indigenous people and people that generally walk without shoes, you're going to have splayed toes. Now look at his toes. Yeah, there's at least about a 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch in between each toe. You have space.
Let me take it farther than that, Nick.
Yeah.
I know exactly where you're going. See how his outer toes are spread and splayed in?
Right.
Yes.
He goes barefooted or wears sandals 90% of the time. That is a strictly Western format of our feet, that our toes if I can get my hands. Our little toes curve in because we wear sharp-toed shoes.
Right.
We've been doing that for generations.
Yeah.
As y'all know, I run barefooted 90% of the time. My toes have splayed out. All Eastern, especially in the tropics and even in the South American peoples, any indigenous people that wear sandals or goes barefooted, their toes will literally, their little toes will start spreading and then curve back in to help compensate for the weight in the field. Sorry, go ahead, man.
No, that's what I wanted to point out, is that his toes are splayed because he most likely goes around barefooted.
Yeah.
And which is a healthier thing for your feet.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look at those casts, you'll see that they're splayed open too.
Also, look how blocky his foot is.
Oh yes, he's got a strong calf and lower ankle system there.
Absolutely,
very blocky, very strong.
When it drives me nuts when we as a society have bound our feet so much, that's where we get the high arches and that typical human walking on the outside of our toes. This is a natural foot. A natural footprint, a Sasquatch footprint, the squared off footprint, that is a natural footprint. You look at all the ancient peoples and their footprints are blocky. It'd be like taking your hands. And when I say blocky, the whole foot touches the bases.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Well, those are definitely impressive.
That is an impressive bunch of casts that he has, though. Wow.
Yeah.
And then once again, though, like I said, you look at every one of them. Now, see, if I seen this one, I would say a modern primate. But where he lives, there are no large primates. But everything, all of them are consistent. That's always what.
And by primate, you're talking about a modern day gorilla
or orangutan,
orangutans, bigger monkeys.
Yeah.
Now, to play devil's advocate here, there have been reported sightings of orangutans on Sumatra, though, hasn't there?
Yes. Yeah. And at one time they say that they was indigenous to there, but if I recall, they're not there now.
What happened is they died out.
Yeah.
The species died out completely.
Yeah.
With the spread of humans and of course World War II, that really did not help it very much.
No.
One of the theories behind, not to hop off Gadang here, but back to Pendek for a second. One of the theories that we've heard from Dolly, Gary, if you remember correctly, is that a lot of these researchers over there believe that they could be a subspecies of the orangutan that has developed to a terrestrial lifestyle on the ground.
Yeah. Which, and, they have certain orangutans that they've documented that stayed predominantly on the ground.
Absolutely.
And that would explain the red hair. And that's the thing for me that I was going to get into when we got on it here later is I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want to offend anybody. But anytime, even with like Sasquatch or anything like this, it's always based upon a historical animal.
Yes.
And especially over there because their culture is still a very oral tradition and a very, we say native culture that maybe this is getting passed down as stories and people's, but now we have evidence of them coming out. So it very well could be. Now you was talking about tracks, Jeremiah, we got to talking about this before the show.
Mm-hmm.
That track that we just pulled up of the Orang Gadang, is not even comparable with a
Sasquatch.
Well, a Sasquatch or a gorilla. Check this out. Gorilla. This is the orangutan. Here, sorry, I meant to say orangutan. Here's the orangutan's foot.
Yep. Okay.
That's the orangutan's rear foot, and we
Now, what I want to point out, and as you guys know, I'm studying zoology and looking for a degree. What I want to point out is that the ape, most of the apes, their feet will look like a hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though it's a weird looking hand, it's still going to look like a human hand.
They got prehensile.
That's how you can tell the difference between an ape, a footprint, and a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot footprint. I've never. You guys have both had the opportunity to see Bigfoot. I have never seen a Bigfoot, even though I went out looking for them in Canada and Colorado, California, Washington State, all over the place. Dogman, yeah, I've seen that 3 different occasions now. But I got to say that, the ape in zoology, that definitely looks like a hand. And there's where people can tell the difference right off the bat. Oh, it's a gorilla. No, it's not. Take a look at the print. Definitely take a look at that print.
In saying that, let me pull that over here. Here is the gorilla, hand and foot.
Hand and foot.
And Nick, you brought up a very key point that I'm glad you brought that up, is the positioning of the thumb. There we go. On all.
Isn't that crazy? Look at that.
Wow. You always see and it's so funny now, the gorilla. Now here's the whole thing of the development of the foot. I got into a very long, about a 6-hour conversation with Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum about this, of the development from equestrial or treed primates to terrestrial.
Right.
The gorilla is pretty much a terrestrial. If y'all remember the orangutan's square foot, the toe was back here.
Mm-hmm.
Gorilla, it's moved forward because the structure of the body to support the weight on the ground.
Right.
The tracks of the orang Gadang and the orang pendak, which is funny, the orang pendak is a smaller version, so they spend a lot of times in the trees. When I pull up those prints, you will see them, the thumbs slid back. But with the bigger version, which we both have established that the orang Gadang could be 12 to 13 foot tall, more like a Sasquatch. Their tracks are more like the standard Yeti tracks, which is explained because they're a Eurasian
right
version, where the Sasquatch is a different style track for some reason. But
there you go, right there. People can tell right off the bat, if they could just keep this in mind. Now, something else that I think you mentioned it just before, about 5 minutes before, Gary, the comparison between the primate, the gorilla and the orang Gadang. There is something, people are saying, oh, maybe they came from the primate. Well, along with studying zoology, I skip over to anthropology also. And something that has been believed, and it's in the books, it's in the anthropological books, it's believed that the orang Gadang is a descendant of the now extinct Gigantopithecus.
Yeah.
And they're now extinct. Spelling Gigantopithecus. And I'm going to tell you, a couple of the anthropologists, when they were talking, they were making a comparison between them, said that it's most likely they did, come from them.
Yes.
And they're saying, thank God that they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
Because they were out in abundance, and these things were, 10, 12, 14 feet. And if they were still around in this day and age, we would have a problem, because it says that, I don't know how they can tell that far back, but they did say they were quite aggressive.
Well, and it's funny that you bring that up, Nick, because even if you look at the renderings of the Gigantopithecus and the structure of the body, the structure of the way it's fur, and this is all speculation because we don't have a body, but these guys are pretty sharp at it. It looks like the descriptions of the orang Gadang.
Right.
But when you cross over to the North American continent and get to the Sasquatch and the Bigfoot, they have a total different appearance.
Total different look. Yeah, they do look more ape. They look more ape-like in the facial features. Well, most of them do anyway.
The Gigantopithecus?
No, the Bigfoot I'm talking about over here.
Yeah.
This side of the country.
Yeah.
They do look ape-like. It's just amazing how just crossing over from one continent to the next, and they do change.
Yeah.
Whereas, well, I won't compare America. Let me compare, let's compare America, even though we have a mixture of people here. You go over to France, to Germany, to Italy, you'll see the people there, they look the same as some of the people here, the same nationalities. They haven't changed much over the years and everything. but one type of Sasquatch looks like another, doesn't really look like another facial feature wise. Now, what's this that you have here, Gary? Print?
This is one of the most famous cast of the orang pendak.
Pendak, yep.
And that is something. That's a nice cast. Wow.
And beautiful.
The thumb positioning is.
Yeah. That's what I was pointing at, that thumb positioning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, Gary, that'd be for gripping on the trees, tree to tree. Yes,
absolutely. But once again, if you and Nick, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that leads into my theory that I've had for years, and like I said, it's just all speculation. But even in the track structure, as y'all know, I'm a tracker. That's what I study, and in the track structure, if we go by the land bridge, the Eurasian land bridge to North America, even the amount of distance that it would have taken Sasquatch to traverse up through Siberia, Russia, Siberia, into Alaska, through Canada and down, it would have taken generation upon generation of mobile bipedal walking. Mm-hmm. Over that period of time, their foot structure would eventually change.
Sure.
That's the reason we have the more pushed forward, more humanistic foot of the Sasquatch. Whereas I'm just saying, and I might be talking at my hind end here, in Eurasia with the Gigantopithecus, the orang pendak, the orang Gadang, the Yeti, they're all more with the thumb pulled back. Also, you look at the terrain.
Yeah.
You look into the southern, I can't even think of the name of it, South American Sasquatch. Their thumbs are pulled back. Maybe it's
Maricoxy.
We all know that Mother Nature is perfection. Yep. She does this stuff for some reason that we don't know, and she does it perfect.
Yeah.
So, Nick, I wanted to ask you, like I said, folks, we don't talk about this before the show, except for maybe 20 or 30 minutes. When you was talking to your buddy over there, Nick, did he talk about any of the vocalizations outside of the women's scream that they
whistling? The whistling. He says that's their big thing, is the whistling.
Yeah.
Where we have tree knocks over here and stuff like that. He says the whistling. Now, something that I guess all these Sasquatch type of beings must have in common is they love to throw rocks.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And these people, I'm calling them people now. The orang Gadang, they have been known to throw rocks at people, yet they're shy and they're non-aggressive. I guess they throw rocks if they're getting too close to their family. That's what he is telling me, or too close to a kill. If they've killed something and they hear humans getting closer. Now, something else that you guys could probably tell me more about it than I know about Sasquatch, but the orang Gadang is they're very curious. Like when humans are camping out there, or they're traveling through the jungles or the forest area, and they might stop. The orang Gadang are generally seen. Now he is himself and his partners who are out there. They've set up trail cams, and they haven't been damaged. It's unusual. They haven't been damaged, and they actually have some footage. They're staying low to the ground, but they have stood up. But they come to the campgrounds, and it seems that they're curious. Mm-hmm. He's seen them get on all fours, and they're sniffing around the campgrounds out there. Mm-hmm. Now here he has a drawing, and it looks like a woman. Figure your typical woman, about 5'5", maybe.
Yeah.
So we're looking at maybe a 10-footer, maybe an 11-foot orang Gadang.
Yeah,
that's the drawing of it.
Look at the size of that thing.
Big brute.
Just unbelievable.
And another thing that I was reading that they've compared them even to like North America and stuff is the giant sloth. Even the giant sloths over there are not over 6 feet tall. Oh, they're in trouble.
And those things are something to look at. I'm telling you. Wow.
What, the giant sloth or?
Yeah, giant sloth.
I was thinking more like Stacy, but.
I was just gonna wait and say hello.
Hello.
How y'all doing tonight? Everybody doing okay?
Go to three. Good. Go to three.
Go to three?
Yeah. Take this off and go to us.
Okay. You give me just a second.
Wait a minute, Stace.
I got sidetracked.
He's leaving us.
Where did my control module go? There.
On the bottom.
No, mine's on top.
There you are. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, honey.
We're just talking about Gary's cousins over here today, the Orang Gadangs.
Oh, okay.
His thinner cousins.
His thinner cousins.
But yeah, you know what? Also, guys, I don't know if you got to this, but the Orang Gadang has been around for quite a while, since the 1300s.
Yeah. The history of it.
What I got in history is 1353. This Italian explorer, Giovanni di Marigoli, back in 1353, he was looking around in Indonesia there, the islands, and he came across a tribe of them. And generally they were shy, but what he says is they used to, because he talked to the indigenous people over there, he started to trade with the Orang Gadang, and they told him how you can trade with them. What you do is you take the things that you have, food or whatever, you know, trinkets or beads or whatever, and you go to a certain spot, and the indigenous people showed Giovanni where to do this. And he would lay it down and come back hours later, and they would figure in their minds, so this means that they had some sort of intelligence. They would leave food and trinkets of their own in exchange. Now, who does that sound like, guys? Come on. Who does that sound like?
The natives here.
No, yeah, it sounds like the Bigfoot here.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like Bigfoot here. If you leave a penny out, you know, for a Bigfoot, he's going to leave you something. If you leave food out, he's going to eat it and get pissed because you didn't leave any more. But generally, you leave marbles or shiny objects, they'll leave stuff.
Yeah.
Now, even though I've never come across a Bigfoot, I've come across areas where they've been, you know, seen. And this one individual showed me a little army soldier that was left by a Bigfoot.
Okay.
He left, what the heck's that? Oh, a Gumby. You know Gumby?
Gumby. I remember Gumby.
Gumby and Pokey. He left a Gumby.
Yep.
And the thing took it, Sasquatch took it, and he left one of those green army men.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wow, this is crazy. He left some marbles, and this thing left some jewelry, cheap jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where, you know, of course we don't know where they got it, but
right.
We got to figure they found it someplace.
Yeah.
It was a brooch, by the way, of some sort. It was a brooch, and a brooch had like some colored glass jewels in it. They weren't precious because he had it checked out. And the metal was a base metal too. But you know, Sasquatch said, "Here, I'm going to trade you the marbles for this."
Sure.
You know, but the one thing you don't do is you don't leave Snicker bars out for Bigfoot.
No, you don't.
People, I know it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not joking. Don't ever leave food. You're not. People, just for our audience, because you know better than I do, but don't leave food for Sasquatch.
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't recommend leaving food for any of these Sasquatch creatures around the world. Nothing. Period.
So anyway, this fellow, while we're at it, Giovanni di Marigoli, he did trading with them, and he says he believes that these things are not human.
Okay.
Because he hid behind a tree and he watched for hours on end. He waited with some of the natives, and he watched and he watched. And this is in his diary, because evidently back then everybody had a diary, and this comes straight out of his diary. He waited and watched, and he goes, "These things are not human. They may walk bipedally, but sometimes they get down on all fours. They sniff the ground like a dog would do, but basically they walk bipedal." And he said there's some type of intelligent primate. That's what he thought back in the 1300s. Now, another explorer back in 1375. Now this is going, you know, forward 27 years. He mentioned in his book, he gave the Orang Gadang a mention in his book. His name is Abraham Catalan, Catalan. So he's known about them since in his area of the world since 1375. So it's not like these things were just discovered, 100, 200 years ago.
Right.
We're talking about, what are we talking about now?
Middle Age period.
700, 800, 900 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely.
1,000 years ago? Yeah. So they were out there someplace. So maybe they were part of Gigantopithecus and...
It's very possible that same part of the world that the giganto fossils are found, is where we're seeing this orang gadang.
Uh-huh.
I think before
orang malwas, which is a very similar type creature to orang gadang, that's where these giganto fossils are coming from.
And that guy has a very impressive collection of fossils. My gosh.
I think you brought up a real good point that I had to step out for a minute and come back in.
Yeah.
But once again, native ancient cultures comparison. Now, in the 1300s, there's no way that they'd have the same communication of the same behavior over there that we do over here with the First Nations people in North America.
Right.
You're seeing a similarity of sightings, behavioral patterns. To me, that gives it more credit because a report reports that old showing the same thing shows that this could be, and I'll say it's more than could be. To me, I'm pretty sure a creditable cryptid creature. For the simple fact that we do have these reports all the way back, and we have the same behaviors all the way back. If you dig in, which I'm sure we will when we work on the Yeti, we'll get all the way back into even the ancient Hindu.
Yes,
some of their stuff, and the Chinese. To me, it just gives it more credit.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing that they're all over the world too.
Absolutely.
Up in the Himalayas, over here in Indonesia, up in Alaska, Canada, United States,
Eastern Europe.
Yeah, Eastern, all over the place.
All over.
It's just, they crossed the land bridge, and some stayed here and some went there.
I brought that up, that exact same statement, and I'm going to quote exactly what the guy told me. And I know it's silly, but humans are all over the place. But we had to use technology to get there. How did these guys get there?
Walk.
Unless, go ahead.
Unless
they can go in portals.
Unless they can use portals and go there and here.
We haven't covered it yet, but I've done a little bit of study, and there are certain islands that we don't have any reports of. We have no ancient sightings on Hawaii. They're more recent.
Yeah.
But once again, Nick kind of threw a monkey wrench in my process here when he said one word: caves.
Caves. Yep.
There is a theory that caves interlock all the planet if you spend enough time there.
There is a theory. Yeah. Look at that cave in Vietnam.
Yeah.
That's got its own ecosystem, for crying out loud. You can fit the New York City skyline. You guys know the cave I'm talking about, right?
Right.
You can fit the New York City skyline in that cave,
And that thing was not discovered
until 92, was it?
92, 93, yeah.
92, 93.
Early 90s.
Yeah. They say there's caves in Cambodia that no human has seen.
In Cambodia. And not to hop off topic here, but look, during Vietnam, when they were seeing these rock apes.
Absolutely.
And, the Sasquatch type.
That's a definite thing. Soldiers, I've known a few guys over the years who worked in the Vietnam War, and they fired on these rock apes. That were attacking their camps that night.
And they were very aggressive, these rock
apes. Very aggressive. Yes.
Extremely.
But it's funny you say that, because I know, Nick, with our background, we do have a lot of it. I was trained by Vietnam vets. That's the way it goes. But it's so funny that even their descriptions are comparable with the Indonesian. are comparable with the Yeti, are comparable with all. It's like when you cross the Atlantic and get over in Europe and Asia, there's a consistency all the way across, and then in North America there's like a variation.
Yeah,
just in the physical appearance is what I'm getting at.
I think I get another way. I think you're putting this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as you cross the Atlantic, you go from North America, you go to England. Now you're going to have drastic. You're not going to have. It's going to change gradually until you get to Asia, where they've. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of. The biggest thing
is change gradually as you get to.
Now let's run this two ways.
Okay.
Let's run this report ways and sociological ways. America was founded, but you can't say it about Sasquatch because even the Native American descriptions of Sasquatch are consistent. America was founded by the Anglo-Saxon people from the European continent.
European.
What I'm saying is, you even compare all that's where I'm getting at, is you compare all the animals.
Yes.
Everything from the Eurasian continents are comparable.
Yes.
And then the North American continent, they kind of stand out a little different. Same way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Except the Yowie.
The Yowie.
Yowie is
over in Australia.
It is described a lot like the orang Gadang, and they're similar.
Yeah.
But you even look at the bears in North America are a lot different than the bears in the Eurasian continent.
Sure.
One animals that stayed fairly consistent was the reptiles. The crocodiles and saltwater crossing alligators. But what I was getting at is, in that Eurasian continent, that's what leads me to think that they're more of a biological. Is that comparison.
I'm with you on that, Gary.
If you think that they was more of a multidimensional, that they would be pretty consistent. And don't take me wrong, they're fairly consistent. But I'm talking about track structure. You can't. Well, I guess you could metamorphose a track, but the consistencies of track structures over there are different than they are on the North American continent. You see a lot of the Patterson-Gimlin style tracks.
Right.
Even in Nepal with the Yeti, it's more style to what we're looking at now.
Exactly. It's almost like a jungle Yeti type track.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, biologically. And it would make sense if you compare it to the other animals also. Biologically, I could see that them being more intertwined over there. And then if they did, just like the grizzly bear, the North American short bear, the North American short-nosed bear, as they came across the land bridge, generations upon generations of coming into a different environment would make their foot structure change, would make their body structure change. And in saying that, let's lead right on into the North American thing. And it also works with the orang pendak, the orang Gadang, if I said that right. The Pacific Northwest more genuinely has bigger, more robust blocks are built. Sasquatch, just like the moose, just like when you get in the northern continents,
look at the food supply.
Absolutely, there you go.
The food supply, you have a plentiful fish in both the ocean, like off Alaska, because that's where that other fish.
Over protein based,
the 15-footer that I didn't see, but we have the pictures of over in upstate New York. I mean, there's deer all over the place.
Yes.
So they have a large and abundant food supply. That's where you're getting these 8, 9, 10 footers and all the time.
Yeah.
And they're more muscular. They're much more muscular and broader.
Now here's another thing. I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench into all of y'all. I was doing the research today and thought of this. There is one place in the Eurasian continent that consistently has a description that's different than what we've been covering tonight. Caucasus Mountains, the Carpathian Mountains, and then the Almas. And they have a more consistent structural with the Sasquatch.
Right.
So I'm almost wondering if maybe I'm going to go by Lloyd R. Pye's theory that Sasquatch was a Neanderthal man and came across the land bridge into North America. And maybe the orang pendak, the orang Gadang, is more of from Gigantopithecus. Maybe one is more of an ape species and one is more of a hominid. Homo sapien.
Right.
What's your thoughts on that, Nick?
Yeah, you have the Cro-Magnon man.
Yeah.
So, was a little bit more advanced than Neanderthal man.
Yeah.
So most likely it was Neanderthal man that did not advance, and he stayed that way. And maybe they evolved they split. They went this way. Cro-Magnon went to the humans we have today.
And that would explain the foot structure.
Right.
Exactly.
Because we do know through what am I thinking? The reconstruction of the.
Yep.
You said it earlier, anthropologic research that Neanderthal man, his bone, the way the tendons went into the bone, he had twice to 4 times the bone density and muscle density than a Homo sapien.
Much stronger, much more athletic.
And I also have to wonder, we as humans put humanistic characteristics into, and I'm not knocking any of these doctors that has the structural stuff, but we have a tendency to put our own expression into this. We don't know exactly what their faces look like, but we don't know about what we do know, and that can't really be changed is the foot structure.
Right.
Homo sapien man has the bipedal where they hit with their heel and spring over their toes, where an ape walks with that would explain the thumb differences. That maybe Sasquatch. It just makes sense to me. Sasquatch, because we know that Neanderthal came across and we also know that Neanderthal was a protein-based, just like Nick was saying, a protein-based diet. That was big, it's bulky, and to me, it makes sense on a physical level.
You got to remember also our ancestors, our Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon ancestors, the reason their musculature was different, thicker, their tendons specifically were thicker. If you study anthropology at all, I've got a couple of classes I have to take in that. I already took a few, and it shows that they've proven it, that their tendons were like 4 times stronger and bigger than ours because they had to walk everywhere.
Yeah.
They couldn't take an Uber, right? They couldn't take a bicycle. They had to climb. They had to climb trees, for things like coconuts and bananas and apples if they existed at the time, for fruits and other vegetables, because believe it or not, they did eat certain, things that were not meat.
Absolutely.
Depending on where they were from. But they were constantly climbing things too.
Yeah.
Therefore, their forearms were at least twice the size of ours.
Sure.
So, the more you use your muscles, the thicker your tendons are going to be.
Even when we discuss the foot structure, Neanderthal, we have no evidence in archaeological evidence, of actual binding the foot or putting skins on the feet until Cro-Magnon.
Right.
Prior to that, we don't know. But if you take generation upon generation upon generation, if you compare my foot to my great-grandfather's foot, his little toe hit the ground. Mine doesn't, because over generations we have bound our feet because the way we walk, we have a tendency to break feet because of the way our spines and hips are designed. And I laugh at people when people tell me about the Patterson-Gimlin film, about how unnatural that gait was. I'm like, have you ever really been in the woods a lot? That is a more natural gait than what we do.
Than what we have.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it makes sense to me,
And something one of my anthropology professors pointed out, he had dozens and dozens of pictures to illustrate this, is the ankle area.
Absolutely.
Now, your buddy that you showed his foot next to the prints,
yes,
Gary pointed out that he's got one hell of a, foot and ankle structure. Well, he does. He does, because you got to remember now, he's using his toes also to move himself. If your foot is in a shoe, you're not going to use your toes to grab. So you're exercising. This is what my professor pointed out to us. And I mean, I kind of knew the answer already, just from my studies of just physiology and anatomy. But that guy that you showed, his toes must grip. So he's exercising everything.
Yeah.
And his motion is more than our motion.
Absolutely.
Now, in my line of work, I wear boots a lot. And what I got was the extra wide baits.
Yep.
Okay, so here they are. Okay,
you've got a very wide toe box that'll
extra
allow
wide
you to put
baits,
the move more naturally.
not because I have extra wide feet,
Nope.
but because I wanted that room. Now, what I wear is I wear wool socks all the time because that's actually the best thing for your feet.
It is.
And the wool socks are a little bit thicker, so with the wool socks, I fit into these boots really nice. But something different than what our ancestors did. A lot of times I'm in a room and either we caused it or the people who were in these rooms caused it, or warehouses or wherever you want to call it, without getting into what I do. There's broken glass on the ground. Now, damn, I wouldn't want to go in there in sandals. I wouldn't want to go in there barefooted. Even if I walked barefoot all day long.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would get torn up. And you've got screws on the ground. You've got nails. I mean, we go through things like you wouldn't believe. So this was out of necessity is what I'm trying to get across. Out of necessity, humans evolved into shoe-wearing people. I mean, they've got boots for everything. People that work in construction. I mean, these boots, these baits that I'm wearing right now are, there's a solid toe in there. They're a carbon fiber toe.
Yep.
And you could actually drop a 300-pound weight on it and you're not going to bust it.
Not going to bust it.
I mean, we have certain parameters that we have to have. So there's a little bit of, there's a reason why we evolved.
Well, I tell you, having this discussion with Dr. Meldrum, I brought up something to him and he 100% agreed with me. And I've heard him use it a couple of times. If you go and look at, say, a professional Olympiad gymnastics or ballet dancer, not a 12 or 14-year-old young lady, but you look at a professional that's been doing it for 30 or 40 years.
Sure.
Look at their feet. And here's where we get in. And Nick, I love how you put that perfect example. Their feet are structured by what we do. We humans want to protect our feet. That's how we have ended up changing the way we walk over the years. That's the reason we do the spring over hill. That's the reason our backs get hurt all the time. It's because we wear stuff on our feet to where we got to where we're stomping a lot more. Everybody talks about Sasquatch going through the woods silently. Yeah, because they watch where they put their feet. They have to, or they're going to get them cut. And so if you take that generation upon generation upon generation, another thing people don't understand, they raise their knees up so high. We as humans walk so lazy. It takes me about 45 minutes in the woods because we know we're walking on concrete and nice floors. So we just pick our feet up this far off the ground half the time.
Right.
When you get in the woods, you physically, Jeremiah, you've done it. Nick, you have to do it. We have to physically pick our knees up. Now, were these animals, these entities, however you want to put it, so you look at the First Nations people or you look at a professional tracker or a tracking guide, they walk with their feet up. They sway their arms more because of keeping the balance. They naturally would reach up and grab a tree. I grab a tree all the time walking through the woods. I'm just going to harp and say this. I'm sick of chairborne rangers or keyboard warriors folks telling me how to walk through the woods.
Exactly.
When I get down on my hands and knees and go down a slope because I don't want to fall, or I get off, or I slide down on my butt and crawl up and down on my hands and knees.
I was going to say, do a butt slide.
I just don't understand it with folks. But in saying that, everything that we've talked about, the biomechanical manipulation or evolution or however you want to structural, everything we talk about to me is a natural thing. It just makes sense, except I've got to go back to it. I know Nick said earlier that he hasn't never seen a Sasquatch. Well, I'm lucky because I've never seen what he's seen. These things don't make no sense. Sasquatch, orang pendak, orang gadang, gigantopithecus, that makes sense. A dog man, he don't make no sense to me. God, I don't think, I got to be careful. I'm just going to say it. I don't think God created that. That's unnatural. And even biomechanically, because
anthropologically speaking.
It don't make no sense.
Yeah.
You're talking about Dogman now.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm telling you now. I understand that there are certain subspecies that we think of,
Right.
Sasquatch and stuff that has.
That have-
But I'm talking about the inverted back legs.
Yes.
That don't make no sense. Mechanically, that don't make no sense.
Well, right.
Gary, you got to remember now, there are 7 different forms of dogman that have been seen, and some of the dogman men have been seen and described with German Shepherd-like legs. The backward one.
That's one.
The one I saw has a human type.
Same with mine.
It was
more the Beast of Bray Road style.
Yeah. So there's 2 different types, yet they are dogmen.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. To me, this is more supernatural. That is more paranormal. That is more cross-dimensional or something like that. Where Orang Pendak or the Yeti or any of the cryptids that we've discussed, like I honestly believe that we blew Chewbacca. Cobra out there, we explained that. But these to me are natural cryptids.
Sure.
But when you get into what, Nick's gotten me into here lately in the past, and that he wonders why I bought that shotgun or got that shotgun. I don't know how many bullets it'd take to kill a dog man, but I don't know how many I'm going to use. But no, really, when you look, and I wanted to share screen one more time, a lot of the physical descriptions of the Orang Pendak and of the Orang Gadang. Am I saying that right? Gadang?
Yeah, the first 2 letters and then the last 4.
Okay, Gadang.
But you know what? You ought to show some of the other pictures that.
That's where I was going.
Let's just view them.
Yeah. But all the descriptions that they've been saying, and once again, it's consistent with the how would we say, the variety of animals in that area, is to this fella right here. Color, facial.
Yep.
I mean, think about it. And that would make sense over there. That would make sense that these things look like that. He could be a descendant. But we don't have nothing like that in North America.
Nothing. No.
All right, let me go to these other. I know
they're not on those islands in Indonesia either anymore. So
no. That's
gone. They're gone.
They're gone.
That's the orangutan.
Not the orangutan.
Nope, it's not the Gadang. It's the atang, and it's spelled O.
Now, see, a lot of these pictures that y'all sent me are Sasquatch. It don't even. I mean, I'm just saying they don't even match the descriptions I got of the
Gadang.
Yeah. Like, to me, that I can tell you exactly where that picture come from. That was a picture extracted from the Bigfoot game that I played.
Yeah, it's just for comparison.
Yeah, comparison.
So the longer hair, and the heavier body.
Yeah. The drawing standing next to the woman, to me, really puts it into perspective. The difference in between the Orang Gadang and the Orang Pendak, because the Orang Pendak is just a man-sized. He's bulkier, but he's a
man-sized.
Yeah.
So my first thoughts was gorilla. Well, there's no gorillas, and the way they describe him, he has brown hair. So I mean, it's not black.
That's right.
All right, switch to the next one, and
But
well, that's the only reason why we sent this to you, just for a comparison.
Now this is what I would expect from a
Pendak.
Yeah,
or Gadang.
Yeah. The longer, see, he looks more like, and even how they drew
the foot.
Yeah, look at that foot.
Yeah, that would be more like a Gigantopithecus to me.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a clip.
Yeah. There's a comparison to Sasquatch.
But good, very good comparison. Okay, you see how her face structure is? Now look at this one's face structure.
Yeah.
Similar.
The only difference is what I want to mention once again is that, like my buddy from Indonesia said, their hair is much, much shorter. Much, much shorter. And most likely due to the area, the high heat, the high temperature.
Right. Okay, there's that.
And now, here you go.
Okay.
Now this is a rendering of the Orang Pendak.
Okay.
but because look at the narrowness of the hips and the thinner body.
Thinner body, yeah. Look at those casts. Jeez.
That
one here is amazing. And here's your guy's foot.
Incredible.
Look at the powerful ankle this guy has.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And once again, though, the consistency in all of them, even like this one here, the smaller one, has the 4 digits and the heel structure.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, I could pull it up. Matter of fact, let me do that real quick. Let me stop share here.
Well, anyway, your buddy over here, he looks like he has very strong muscular calves.
Oh,
and just like Gary was saying, his comparison with the ballet dancer dancer has phenomenally cut and strong calves.
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna pull this up for comparison. Really, I don't need a movie cast. Okay, here are some of the most famous. And now I will explain why I think this is the way it is. Stop share screen, share you, and share. Okay, this is one of the most famous Yeti.
There we go. That's yep.
Now look at those toes on the end there. Amazing.
How similar they are.
Unbelievable.
Now, with this being in snow and packed snow, you're going to have a lot more pronounced.
Yeah.
Also, with melt off, as you can see the dark displacement here, then it is melting off. So I, in personal opinion, would say that the actual foot that made this track, see the narrowness, see this indentation here as it comes around?
Right.
Yes.
Do you see the comparison of that to the other? Let me pull it up. Sorry, guys.
All right.
Where is that? There it is.
There we go. Yep.
See the similarities here?
Right.
Absolutely.
In the smaller ones, but the narrower heel, well, with that being in the snow, with the heel hitting lower, it's on to melt, it's on to blow out and dissipate.
Right.
I believe, my personal opinion, I believe that the Yeti is probably of the same subspecies because of the general placement as the.
I would have to agree with you. Yeah.
The structure.
Except with a much more hair. Much longer hair.
Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Where's my buddy? Oh, here's my buddy. Yes, the Yeti.
There you go.
I typed in Yeti cast and it pulled up that movie. But
well, fellas, I think we've
hit the end of the film. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a good episode, and we showed some good stuff, and hopefully we passed some good knowledge out there to people tonight. And
that's what's so good about this show, the Cryptid Consortium, is that we hit on different types of cryptids that are really not spoken about a lot.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, we hit Men in Black and we hit the Mongolian death worm, but I mean, who talks about the Orang Gadang? I mean,
exactly.
Really, people don't really talk about these things. They do talk a lot about Sasquatch. They do talk a lot about even Dogman and Mothman, but
exactly.
On this show, we're going to talk about the wild and crazy ones, the less.
That's right.
The less spoken ones, right, Gary?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Thanks for everyone tuning in, and
yes, thank you, everybody.
Be back next week with another awesome cryptid. Everyone have a good week. Everyone be good to each other, and we will see you next week.
Good night now.
God bless everybody.
Bye-bye.